JMC 6000 here for this week's JMC Garage Talk. And in front of me, of course, I have my 2022 Ford Maverick. We're going to be doing an update soon on the Maverick. But before I do, I want to do an update and kind of bring an all conclusion to the whole on-road fires. Now, in an essence of time and video length, I'm not going to go through everything that has been happening, but let me give you a brief summary of what Ford has been kind of issuing and dealing with the on-road fires on not only the Maverick, but the Corsair Hybrid and also the Ford Escape Hybrid. Now, sometime about I believe it was 2 years ago, actually a little bit less than about a year and a half ago, Ford issued a recall on the Corsair Hybrid, the Maverick Hybrid, and also the Ford Escape Hybrid. And the situation was some crankshafts got machined wrong and were eating up rod bearings. And once the rod bearings were ate up of 1, 2, 3, or maybe even 4, they would lock up, and no longer will the piston actually turn that up and down energy to rotating energy. And as the cap and everything for the piston and connector rod would lock up on the crankshaft, well, that energy has to go somewhere. And usually what would happen was the connector rod would snap and bust a hole out the side of the block, therefore exiting all the fluids, the oil, the blow-by gases, everything else would be coming out to the side. Well, that stuff is very hot, very volatile. And if it touched anything like a hot exhaust pipe or anything like that, it would probably instantly catch on fire, and then you would have a flaming Maverick. So Ford issued a recall for that. Now, the overall count of affected engines technically is not known, but internally within Ford, it was only a few hundred that were affected. Ford caught the machining issue quick with the crankshaft, got it rectified, took care of it, but of course, when you're dealing with safety and under fires, the NSTA gets involved, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration will get involved, and they wanted a recall, for Ford issues. So their initial recall was to drill holes in the underbody, 3 of them in fact, and I believe to cut a square in another part of it. This has like a felt underbody to it. I totally removed it on mine, but they wanted you to drill holes, or the dealer would have to drill holes and everything else. And then they wanted extra airflow to go into the engine bay that I have here. So they took out some of the active roll shutter slats to help to mitigate some extra airflow and easy way for the gases, the fluids to escape, just in case your engine decided to let go, if you were one of those that were affected. Now, flash forward, I would say about 6 months later. Again, if you guys want to see in-depth videos about this, I have it all on my channel on JMC 6000. Please resource yourself on this issue if you're not familiar. For the NSTA, that was not good enough, so they were like, look, Ford, we need something bigger and better than this. So Ford was like, okay, and I'm going to explain to you what I have before me now, and I'll explain to you what recalls are. So Ford was like, okay, so they issued out another recall. This second recall was actually going to go a little bit deeper, and what Ford did is they reflashed the computer. By doing that, it actually introduced 2 new engine codes that help easily detect if the engine's about ready to let go before it actually happens. Secondly, what they did as well is would help the engine go into limp mode. Basically, when the engine goes into limp mode, it turns at a very low RPM, just enough to kind of get the engine to move, but it's not enough to really cause a serious connector rod at the side of the block. So those were the second recall, which I had done at the beginning of this year. So that happened. Now we are under a CSP, which is a customer satisfaction program. This just came out this past week, and what a CSP does is affects me and you. And what I mean by that, this helps to satisfy customers who maybe are complaining, who maybe are saying, hey, Ford, what you did for the first 2 recalls is just not good enough for me. I've had this happen. I want some retribution. I want you to step up. And Ford knows this, and it wants to keep a loyal customer base. So we'll send out the CSPs. The last time that I remember that we've had this happen, I'm sure there's many different times Ford has done this before, but just recently, off the top of my head, was around the Ford Escape and the Ford Bronco Sport 1.5 Dragon inline 3-cylinder. Fuel injectors were cracking. Ford issue a safety recall. Again, most recalls are around safety. A safety recall that if your ejector cracks, you will install a drain tube. It'll drain excess gas down to the bottom and where it could dissipate and not get on fire or anything like that. Well, that's not good for customers. I mean, it's like, Ford, what are you going to do if my injector cracks? You're just going to put in a drain tube? That doesn't make any sense. Ford understands that. So about a month or two later, they introduced what they call the CSP, the Customer Satisfaction Program. And for the Ford Bronco Sport and the Ford Escape with the 1.5 liter Dragon i3, if you have the injectors crack, you bring it in, and Ford, at no fault or no charge to the customer, will replace all 3 injectors. No questions asked. Even if, as long as the recall has been done, they'll do all 3 injectors. No questions asked. So now we've come to the point of the Maverick, and we have the CSP for the Maverick for the engine that may, if yours are affected, would eject a connector rod out the block. So let me just kind of go through this, and then we'll kind of break it down real quick. Again, for the sake of time, I'm not going to read everything, but I will read the subject at hand. Customer Satisfaction Program, CSP 23N06. If you want to look up more, there is the number 23N06. Affects certain 2021, 2022 Lincoln Corsairs, 2020 to 2022 Ford Escapes, and 2022 to 2023 Ford Maverick Hybrids, all equipped with the 2.5 liter HEV or PHEV engine long block. So, program teams for vehicles that are outside of the normal powertrain warranty, which mine would be because I have almost 90,000 miles on this truck, way outside of the normal powertrain warranty. This program provides a one-time replacement, if needed, free of charge of parts and labor of the engine long block assembly. Now, what an engine long block assembly is you see the Maverick Hybrid engine here, 2.5 liter, Mazda designed based MZR. Now, what a long block is basically the chunk of the engine, the block, the head, the timing cover, the plastic valve cover, but everything else is added. I'm sorry, everything else is deleted. You would have to transfer intake, spark plugs, maybe not spark plugs, coils. You would have to transfer exhaust manifold. Everything else attached to the engine would have to, EGR cooler. All that would have to be transferred off of the old engine onto the new long block. But the long block itself is basically the head, the block, the timing cover, the valve cover, and that's about it. And maybe even spark plugs. Other than that, everything else would be transferred. Starter, if it had one, stuff like that. Okay, vehicles covered in this program. Oh, sorry, I didn't read the first program terms. So it covers the engine long block for 10 years or 100,000 miles. So Ford is basically saying, look, we're going to extend your engine's warranty just in case it injects a connecting rod for 10 years or 100,000 miles. Now, there is a caveat to this, but I'm going to read that to you right now. From the warranty start date of the vehicle, whichever occurs first, if the vehicle has already exceeded either the time or the mileage difference, or the mileage limits rather, there is a no-cost repair that will last through July 31st, 2025. For example, if I decide to keep my truck past 100,000 miles, technically that's outside of the coverage term of the 10 years, 100,000 miles. So what does Ford do? Ford is like, that's okay. If you happen to put 120,000 miles on this thing, and we had ejects a connector rod out the back because of the back crankshaft, we will still cover you up until July 31st of 2025. So that's basically a year, or a little over a year, since the issue of this CSP. Pretty awesome. All right, vehicles covered by this program, vehicle, model year, and it gives the model year codes. I'm not going to go through that. We already know which vehicles are covered. Here we go. Reason for providing a no-cost one-time repair. In some of the affected vehicles, after safety recall 23S27, again, look that up if you need to, has been performed, the MIL light, or the malfunction indicator light, also known as the check engine light. For those who may not be familiar with an MIL is, or a malfunction indicator light, basically means check engine light, may illuminate and store DTCs, or diagnostic trouble codes, and it lists 2 of them. These 2 codes are brand new just for this issue. Pretty interesting. First one is going to be P1061 and P032F. This could be due to a faulty connector rod bearing that was detected by a powertrain control module, or the PCM. Service action if an affected vehicle exhibits its condition. Dealers are to follow the workshop manual. Diagnostics for DTCs P1061 and or P032F. If these DTCs are present in the computer or in the diagnostic lead to the engine, which will lead to engine replacement. So here's the thing. You notice the check engine light comes on in your Ford Maverick Hybrid, or in your Ford Escape Hybrid, or in your Lincoln Corsair Hybrid. All of a sudden you can hear a little bit of roughness going on in the engine, or you notice something different of how it's running. Maybe there's some reduced power. It's giving you a warning sign. It's about ready to let go. You can get it towed or whatever to your local Ford dealer. If they notice any of these 2 codes that are present as a result of the check engine light illuminating, they replace this engine, no questions asked. It's not even a discussion at that point. It's like, okay, we're going to drop the engine in. Now. Let me get one thing clear before I move on and conclude this video. This does not mean if you drive one of these Maverick Hybrids or Lincoln Corsair Hybrid or Ford Escape Hybrid that now you can go to your dealer and say, here, look, it's right here, customer satisfaction program. You got to replace my engine. They're not going to do that. They're going to laugh at your face. They only will replace your engine if 1 or 2 of those engine codes are stored in the computer and you have an illuminated check engine light. And of course, if your engine is showing signs of stress and it's about ready to sound like it's about ready to explode. So, again, mine's running fine. I'm not going to take mine to the dealer and say, hey, look, I have this paper in front of me that outlines a customer satisfaction program, and I'm going to list the number, 2306. I need a new engine. I want you to put a new engine in. I demand a new engine. They're not doing that. They will not do that. So don't go to your dealer and start demanding new engines. This isn't Toyota. Sorry. Go to your, you won't, they're not going to do that. That's only if it starts to exhibit an issue. And you know what? I'm fully supportive of that. I don't want my dealer touching my engine. This thing's been running fine for just about 90,000 miles. I keep up on my oil changes. I keep after the maintenance, which there's not a lot of maintenance on the hybrid engine. There's no belt to replace. I keep after my air filter, make sure it's clean, make sure it runs healthy. I keep good quality gas. I don't go to Walmart anymore to get gas in this truck. I used to, please forgive me, but it was back when gas was really expensive. They were the cheapest in town. I don't do that anymore. I don't go to Walmart to get gas. Maybe you may get offended. I'm so sorry. If you like Walmart gas, more power to you. I just know there's a difference in the way the truck runs when I use Walmart versus when I go to a truck stop gas station like Love's or somebody else. Anyway, that's just me. So, I'm not going to demand a new engine because there's no reason to replace this engine. This engine is still good and still has a lot of life left in it. I think those that have been suffering or those that have been affected by this recall who may have had an engine blow up or eject the connector rod out the block, those were caught very early on. And Ford is just making sure that their customers are taken care of. That's one thing I have to give it up for Ford. They really do take care of the customers, despite what some people on YouTube may think or see or listen to because they don't get all the facts and they never owned a Ford vehicle or a recent Ford vehicle in their life. So I'm not going to point any names or call out anybody, even though I probably could. You guys get the idea. Awesome. Well, here we are. If you guys want more of this information, again, you can look up all these numbers, stop my video at certain times, write down all these numbers, and you can kind of dig into it a little bit on your own. Finally, we have an absolute resolution and a final, I don't know how else to put it, but a concluding or concludality, whatever you want to call it, of the Ford Maverick Hybrid, not only the Maverick, but the Corsair and the, not Bronco Sport, they don't have a hybrid yet, and the Escape. Hybrid. So here we are. And I will say this 2.5 has been a bulletproof engine for me. Never had an issue. Never had a weirdness happen on all of 90,000 miles. It started up just fine. It runs just great. Again, it depends on the quality of gas you use. It's kind of particular on quality of gas. Don't get the cheapest junk out there. Put some decent stuff in there. It doesn't have to be high grade. Just put decent quality gas in there. But other than that, I've been very, very satisfied with the 2.5 liter. It's basic, it's simple, and it just runs, and it runs very well. If you have any questions, comments, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification. I upload every single Wednesday morning and every single Saturday afternoon or evening right here for the JMC Garage Talk channel. Awesome. You guys be blessed. Have a wonderful day, and we will catch you on the next one.